Economic uncertainty surrounding the North American auto industry. The big three are navigating a new era as they deal with the impact of President Trump's tariffs.
Now, General Motors and Stellantis are already feeling the impact.
Customers are in a panic. There's a frenzy going on. They want to buy cars before the tariffs hit and prices go up.
Remember when buying a car meant driving down to your local dealer, shaking hands with a salesman you probably knew by name, and feeling confident you'd find something reliable at a fair price? Maybe you remember the smell of new leather seats, the excitement of driving off the lot, or that sense of pride when you put your key in the ignition for the first time. Those days feel like they belong to another lifetime, because right now something massive is happening in North America's auto industry. And it's not just about cars, it's about jobs, families, entire communities, and really the future of manufacturing on this continent. What if I told you that 5 of the world's biggest automakers have quietly packed up and walked away from the American market, taking nearly 38,000 jobs with them, 38,000 livelihoods, 38,000 paychecks. And here's the twist. They're not setting up shop in China. They're not moving down to Mexico. They're heading north. They're going to Canada. Now let me paint this picture for you. I've been following the auto industry for decades, and I've never seen anything like what we're witnessing today. This isn't just another cycle of layoffs and rebounds. No, this is bigger. What we're seeing is the end of one era, the unraveling of a tradition that's been around for generations. And at the same time, the beginning of something entirely new. And if you want to see the human cost of this transformation, you don't need charts or spreadsheets. All you need to do is take a drive through small towns across Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, or Illinois. Look around and you'll see what's happening. Families who spent decades, sometimes 3 or 4 generations, working the same factory lines are suddenly staring down retirement with pensions that feel more like question marks than guarantees. The diners that used to be packed at sunrise with workers grabbing their coffee before their shifts now feel empty, quiet, almost frozen in time. Streets that once echoed with the sound of shift changes and factory whistles now feel eerily still. But here's the part that really makes you stop and think. This isn't just about companies moving equipment from one plant to another. This is about how decisions made in Washington, decisions about trade, tariffs, and taxes are reshaping the very foundation of the US-Canada economic relationship. And it's happening faster than most people realize. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed how much more expensive cars have gotten lately? It feels like every time you check a price tag, it's jumped again. Well, that's not just inflation, not by a long shot. The reasons go much deeper. Take Toyota, for example. For years, it was America's most trusted foreign brand. Today, it's staring at losses of nearly $19 billion. Think about that. $19 billion. That's more than the annual GDP of some small countries, wiped out in a single year. Or take Nissan. This is a company that once called North America its golden land, the place where it found endless opportunity. Now, it's reporting a $5.3 billion loss, the largest in its entire history. These aren't just rough quarters, these are existential crises. And yet, while Detroit struggles to keep its footing, something remarkable is happening north of the border. Canadian cities, many of which most Americans probably couldn't point to on a map, are suddenly transforming into the new automotive capitals of North America. The very same companies closing plants in American towns are investing billions into Canadian operations. And it's not just because labor might be cheaper. It's about something deeper: stability, predictable trade relationships, what industry insiders are now calling policy certainty. If you're Canadian, maybe you're listening to this thinking, finally, some good economic news for us. But if you're American, the question that's hard to ignore is, how did we let this slip away? And here's the truth. The ripple effects are massive. This isn't just a blip in the market. This is the biggest realignment of North American manufacturing since NAFTA was signed. For decades, the story was simple. American companies would expand north into Canada or build plants in Mexico, and everything would eventually flow back into the US market. But now, we're watching the reverse happen. Established global automakers are choosing Canada as their new base, while steadily pulling back on their American operations. So let's bring this down to the level that really matters. What does it mean for everyday people like you and me? Well, here's the reality check. Prices for new cars have absolutely skyrocketed. In just the last year, sticker prices jumped by $5,000 to $10,000 on average. Even so-called American-made vehicles are now about $3,000 more expensive than they used to be. For those of us who grew up believing that a reliable car was part of the basic promise of the middle class, that hard work meant you could afford to drive something decent and dependable, this feels like a betrayal. And yet, here's the paradox. While Americans are paying more for fewer options, Canadians are actually starting to benefit. With new investments pouring into their cities, local production is driving competition, and that means lower costs and better choices for Canadian consumers. Economists have a term for this, a wealth transfer, and right now, that transfer is flowing north. So let me ask you straight, how many of you have put off buying that new car because prices have gotten so far out of reach? How many of you have said, you know what, I'll just keep my old one for another year or two? This is about so much more than corporate profits. For Americans, it raises a tough question. Is this the cost of putting America first? Because if policies meant to protect jobs end up killing those jobs and raising prices for families, can we really call them successful? For Canadians, there's another question. How do you celebrate this wave of new opportunity while knowing it comes at the expense of your closest neighbor and your biggest trading partner? And for both countries, the bigger question remains, what happens to the carefully balanced, deeply integrated economy that we spent decades building together? If you've been around long enough, you already know this isn't just about cars. The auto industry has always been the backbone of North American manufacturing. It's employed millions of people. It's funded our schools with property taxes. It's kept small towns alive. When the auto industry thrived, machine shops thrived. Steel suppliers thrived. Logistics companies thrived. And when the auto industry stumbled, the ripple effects hit everyone, from the small business owners to the teachers in our classrooms. Do you remember when Made in Detroit was more than just a label? It was a badge of honor, a phrase that carried weight all over the world. That reputation took generations to build, and now, in real time, we're watching it slip away. And don't think for a second this story ends with cars. The auto industry has always been a bellwether for bigger economic shifts. If these companies, with their massive capital investments and long-term strategies, are making moves this dramatic, then you can bet other industries are watching closely. And we're already seeing hints of it. Technology companies are looking at Canadian cities for their next expansions. Energy firms are reevaluating where they place their bets. Even agriculture, the foundation of rural economies in both the US and Canada, is being shaped by the ripple effects of changing trade relationships. So here's the big, forward-looking question. If this trend keeps going, what will North America look like 10 years from now? Now, I know this can all sound a little grim, but let's not miss the silver lining. This moment, this uncomfortable, disruptive moment, is forcing both countries to rediscover what actually makes them competitive. Canada is finally stepping out of the shadow of being America's quiet neighbor. It's proving it can be a destination for world-class manufacturing, research, and innovation. And America, as painful as this process might be, is being reminded that leadership in the global economy isn't automatic. You don't inherit it forever. You have to earn it. You have to make smart policies that protect workers, but also encourage growth, creativity, and investment. So as we watch this transformation unfold, let's keep one thing in mind. We're living through history. The decisions made today will echo for decades. Whether you're in Detroit or Toronto, Phoenix or Vancouver, this story matters to you. Because the truth is, North America's prosperity has always been interconnected. It's never been about one country winning while the other loses. It's about whether we can build a future that works for families on both sides of the border. So, let me leave you with this. What do you think? Have you seen these changes firsthand in your own community? Maybe you've watched a factory close. Maybe you've seen car prices skyrocket. Maybe you've had to make tough choices because of it. Share your stories, because they matter. Your experiences help paint the full picture of what's happening right now. The automotive industry built the modern North American middle class, and now it's showing us what the future of that middle class might look like. The road ahead may be uncertain. It may even be bumpy. But one thing's for sure, it's a road we'll be traveling together.